Tai Chi classes, they start off with warm-ups. And I'm not a great fan of warm-ups. My warm-ups will last about 5 minutes. Nonetheless, you should do them, and we'll do them every class. But what I see is that the movements of Tai Chi themselves are more important to practice. I've been to classes where they spend a lot of time. They'll take, let's warm up our fingers. Okay, we warm up our fingers. Let's warm up our wrists. And warm the wrists, elbows, shoulders, neck, hips, legs, feet. And it's like, and it takes a half an hour to do this. But in the movements that we learn, we're going to actually relax our wrists, relax our fingers as we learn the movement. So to me, if you practice the form, those are warm-ups in themselves because they start very gently and they slowly expand into you're doing bigger, larger movements. Okay? So I'm going to show you, first of all, some warm-ups, and the first one's going to be to just stretch our legs. So what we do is we stand with our feet a little wider than shoulder width apart. We're going to hold our hands like so. This is called the tiger's mouth. We're going to turn that and put it over our knees. Now, with the thumbs behind. So, like this. So one thing I'd like to address first before we go on is that only do it to your own ability. We're not competing. And of course, you're in your own house, so nobody's watching you. But even in a classroom situation, you don't want to compete. You're doing it for yourself. It's not important how low you can stretch or strain yourself. We just want to go within our ability. If you can't do this very far, if you have hip problems, go within your own limitations. Okay, so feet are a little bit farther apart. Tiger's mouth, put them above our knees or up on our leg a little bit. And then we're going to sink. Sink means to bend our legs. So sink on one leg. We're going to turn the toe up of the other leg. And then we're going to rise, shift our weight to the other side, and sink. And we're just getting a gentle stretch on the back of our legs. So I'll do this sideways for us. So sink. And sink. Change positions again so you can see. Sink. And then one more time, sink. And then you can turn your feet in to get back up. Just depends on, once again, how far down you're sinking. Once again, we don't try to strain ourselves. We don't want to bounce. So some people teach like, oh, you bounce when you do this. We don't do that. Gentle, that's a very gentle stretch. If any of you have taken yoga, you don't bounce in yoga. At least the way I've learned it, you don't do it. So you're just going to have a gentle stretch, one side and then the other. Okay, the next one, so that's our first one. The next one I call shoulder rotations. And I'm going to demonstrate it first. One leg out, one leg behind. My arm's going to come up and make a circle. Okay, and it's done very slowly. So, the first thing we're going to do is stand with our feet shoulder width apart. We're going to turn one foot out 45 degrees, turn your left foot out 45 degrees, and then step forward with your right foot. Now, when you step forward, watch where you're stepping. So you want to step straight ahead. You don't want to step in front of your other foot because you won't have good balance. So we step straight ahead. And then we're going to have our hand out, and then we're going to, front legs bent, we're going to rise, our arms are going to float up. We're going to turn a little bit to the right, and then we're going to shift our weight on the back as our arm floats down. And then we're going to shift our weight forward again and make a circle. So your arm floats up, try to be relaxed. And again, rise as your arm comes up. And then as your arm comes up in the air, then shift your weight and then sink on the rear leg, your arm floats down. We'll do that one more time. Okay, then we'll do that with the other side. So we're going to turn the right foot out 45 degrees and step forward with our left foot. Left hand is going to be thumb up. Weights forward, legs bent, then rise, turn and sink on your right leg, and then shift your weight forward. Once again, we do this slowly, very evenly. Okay, once again, if you have shoulder problems, elbow problems, and you can't do that, you have almost like, if you have like a frozen shoulder and you can't do that, just do what you can. If that's all you can do, just gently move. Okay, don't force yourself. You don't want to try anything extreme if you can't do it. And we're not, once again, we're not moving fast either. So it's just everything, it's very slow. Sink, okay? So very slow motion, exercising our shoulder. The next one is bending forward. And for this one, we're going to turn the left foot out. The right foot's going to be forward with the toe in the air. I'm going to interlock my fingers. And then I'm going to put my hand above my knee and bend forward. Now, watch me first before you try this. When I do this, I'm going to bend forward, but I'm going to bend at the hips. Okay, I don't want to bend my back. I want to bend at the hips. So you're going to place your hand above your knee and bend forward. Exhale. Bend forward. And then you straighten up and stretch up and inhale. Okay, so let's try this together. So once again, left foot 45 degrees, right foot forward, toe in the air. Interlock our fingers. We're going to bend forward and exhale. And then we're going to stretch up and inhale. Once again, don't force yourself. We'll do this 3 times. Exhale, bend forward. Okay, we'll do that on the next other side. So bring our feet back, shoulder width apart, right foot out 45 degrees, left foot forward. Interlock our fingers. We exhale and bend forward, placing your hands above your knee. Bend at the hip. And then stretch up. Inhale. Once again, we're not forcing ourselves, just easy movement. Okay, and then the fourth and final one, I've never really had a name for it other than I just call it the twisting exercise. And this one incorporates twisting from side to side along with an up-down element to it. I'm going to show you it first. So I'm going to stand like this and turn. And then I come back to the center and turn. So what happens when we're doing this, once again we're starting with our feet together, when we turn, for example, to the left, the right heel will come up. If we keep our feet fixed, it limits our turning of our waist a little bit. So we don't want to do that. We want to be a little bit free. Not that we're going to bend or twist to an extreme, but we don't want to hurt ourselves. So when you go either side, you're going to turn up. You turn to the right, your left heel comes up. Turn to the left, your right heel comes up. So we're going to start with our hands facing each other. And I'm going to turn this way so you can watch me. And I'm going to turn to the right first. My left hand's going to come palm up, right hand palm down. We turn just slightly to the right. And then we're going to come back to the center, the palms facing each other. Turn to the left, the right heel will come up, right hand goes up. Pushing up just slightly, but gently. And then back to the center. Left hand up. Back to the center. Right hand up. Left hand up. Right hand up. Okay, so those are the 4 warm-ups. The first one, once again, is sinking on one leg and then the other. The next one is the shoulder circles. So we have 1 foot 45 degrees, 1 foot forward, rise, turn. Everything is done slowly. Make a circle. We do that both sides. The next one is going to be where we interlock our fingers, bend forward, stretch up. And once again, I want to emphasize this, bend at the hip, bend forward, and then up. And the final one, the one I call the twisting exercise, we start with our hands like this, feet shoulder width apart. We're going to turn, and the hand that goes up will also the same side, the heel will go up. So you're pushing up, pushing down, and slight twist. Your back will just twist just a little bit. I like to do this the first thing in the morning. It just feels good. But once again, it's gentle. It's never forceful and never quick. And then to the other side. Okay, so we're going to start with Tai Chi, but I wanted to talk a little bit about why we do it slowly. Most martial arts, or I should say just virtually all martial arts, are done quickly. Because if somebody's going to punch you, you need to react fast. But because Tai Chi is done also for health, they've slowed down the movements, and it becomes very meditative when you practice. So you slow down your breathing, and with that slowing down of the breathing, you increase your blood circulation, but you also help relax your body. So everything flows better. You start to get into a deep meditative state. But I've talked to people who take other styles of Tai Chi, and sometimes they never feel this very relaxed after they practice. It's more like a calisthenic kind of exercise. Yeah, I've done Tai Chi and I feel okay. But the way I teach it is that breathing becomes very important. But what we don't do is force our breathing. We're never going to go, never do that. We're going to always just breathe naturally. So the difference between what I teach you and what's taught in other styles is basically because we have the sinking and rising movements with the whole body. And that's a principle of Tai Chi. So all parts, one part moves, all parts move. So for example, if we bend our legs, our arms go down, rise, arms come up. That's one movement, like this. Other styles of Tai Chi, it's real common for them to maybe sink, which is bending your legs, and stay in a low position. So For example, in another yang style I've seen, they might have something that starts like ours. They sink, and then they stay low, and they do different movements without really coming up and down. Ours will have this up and down movement, and that's what's going to help you relax. You're going to be coming up, yeah, very wave-like, very rhythmic. It becomes very soothing to your body. It also helps to lubricate your joints because it's gentle, gentle motion with increased blood flow. Now, they've found with studies in Tai Chi that it's good for balance. And it's not that we're going to try to stand for an hour like this, right? So it's just a gentle shifting of weight from one side to the other will help with your balance. Because when you shift from one side to the other, your brain compensates and starts to understand the balance more. So we're doing that side to side or back and forth. So that's going to help with your balance. It will also help once again with your flexibility over time. They said your joints should become more flexible, more like childlike. If your body's vital energy, which is called Qi, and it's spelled Qi, and pronounced Qi as in cheese, if your vital energy is flowing, then you become more flexible over time. Tai Chi is a Taoist art. It was started, one thing the Taoists saw is that with youthfulness you have flexibility. With getting older, you tend to get stiff. So you look at young plants, for example, a young tree, they'll bend easy in the wind. Okay, but as it gets older, if the wind's heavy, the branches might just break off because they're stiff and inflexible. So the idea in Taoism is to try to retain this youthfulness in your body, this flexibility, and do it through certain exercises like Tai Chi or breathing exercises or a combination of both. So over time, this will happen to you. You'll start to get more flexible, but only if you practice. If you just practice when we have the class, you'll have some benefit, but you'll get a lot more benefit if you practice every day. And in China, that's what they do. They like to practice every day. You get up early, you practice Tai Chi, you go about your work, and that's how you start. And some people probably do it in the afternoon or evening too. So with that, we're going to start our Tai Chi form. And we start with our feet shoulder width apart. The first part is just standing. So we stand feet shoulder width apart. We want to have our head straight, but we don't want to have our chin up. We want to have it actually tucked in a little bit. We call this suspending the head top. So we imagine we have like a string holding our head up straight. Okay, but once again, we don't want to be up like this. We want to actually tuck our chin in a little bit because that will help straighten our neck. And then you relax your shoulders. And relax your arms. And when you breathe, we breathe naturally. Once again, we're not forcing our breath, but when you breathe, expand your lower abdomen a little bit and imagine your breath going deep into your abdomen. Now, usually when we start Tai Chi, we'll stand this way for just about a minute, rarely longer, but just try to settle things out. So you just want to let go of everything that's been going on today. You don't worry about anything. I have to do this, I have to do that. This is happening tomorrow, this terrible thing happened to me, or this good thing. We don't want to do that. We just want to be here at this moment and practice our Tai Chi. So we take a second just to kind of calm down and say, okay, here I'm going to practice Tai Chi. And then the next part, what we do is we take a breath. And when we take a breath, our hands come out so that the palms face the ground. Okay, so very simple. We stand here, we take a breath. And then we're going to sink. We're going to sink means to bend our legs. We're going to sink, and our hands will float down by our sides. Okay, not too difficult, right? So sideways, so you can see me. We stand, feet shoulder width apart. Take a breath, hands float out a little bit. And then sink. Let your arms float down, hands come by your side. Good. Anybody can do this. It's very, very easy. Now, as far as how much do you sink? So, do you sink a lot, or do you sink just a little? It's up to you. Generally, we don't sink a lot. There are some styles like the Chen style of Tai Chi where they like to get low, or then in competition Tai Chi, which most people learn a competition form nowadays. The short forms are generally competition forms, but they like to do things and be real low and stay low. We're not doing that, okay? It's very strenuous to do that. So you can bend your knees just a tiny bit, or you can bend them a lot. I probably don't bend mine more than just a few inches at most, but sometimes I just barely bend them, okay? So there's no exact rule of thumb for that, but you do once again what's comfortable. So feet are shoulder width apart, take a breath, and sink. Hands come out, they come up. Okay, so we started with hands by our side, they came out. We sink, they face the palms, face our legs, they don't touch. Then we come up and the palms are going to face the ground again, and this time we're going to rotate them in with a tiger's mouth open. Rotate them in, and then sink, and this time the palms face behind us. Okay, so that's a very beginning movement. So we'll try again. Take a breath and sink. Rise, hands come out, palms face towards the ground, wrists rotate inwards, and then sink. This time, palms face behind. Okay, I'm going to turn sideways so you can see. Let's try it again. Take a breath and sink. Rise, hands come up, turn your hands inward, and sink. Okay, so palms are facing behind this time. I want to take a break for a second and look at my computer, make sure everything's okay there. Okay, everything looks good. So the next part, once again, this is the beginning Tai Chi movements. We always start this. The other thing I want to mention is that what I'm teaching tonight, we will go over again in the next class. So there's always going to be review. We always start at the very beginning and we go to where we're learning and then review, because the more practice you get, the better you remember it. And the goal for me, that I have for you, is that you can remember this by the time we finish in 2 months, that you remember all of this, okay? So you need, once again, you need to practice this, because if you don't practice, you'll forget it real quick. Okay, so feet are shoulder width apart. We take a breath and sink. Rise, palms come up, turn inward, and sink, bending our legs. Palms facing behind. Now the next movement is for our arms to float up in front. Arms are straight. Rise. Raise your arms to about shoulder level, and we relax our wrists. Okay, so from here, turning sideways, my arms come up, and just relax the wrists. Once again, fingers point towards the ground. And this is about shoulder height. We're not coming up shoulder height. The other thing, we want to have no tension in our arms. So what I want you to imagine is being in a pool of water. If you've been in the lake or the swimming pool and you just kind of stood and you let your arms float, that's the feeling I want you to have. Just very light and your arms floating. But we want to coordinate that with our legs, okay? So it's not arms come up and legs come up, or some variation of this, or legs come up, arms come up. It happens all at once. So rise, arms and legs come up. And no matter if you sink a lot, they come up at the same rate, or if I sink just a tiny bit, they come up at the same rate. So if I'm sinking just a little bit, maybe my arms move a little bit faster, or my legs slower. If I sink a lot, maybe they'll come up maybe an equal amount. But we want to coordinate that. One part moves, all parts move. Okay, so let's start from the beginning again. So hands by our side, we suspend our head top. Just take a breath. Hands come out and sink. Rise, hands turn inward. And sink. Palms now face behind. Rise, arms float up. Okay, we'll try again. Take a breath and sink. Turn the hands inward, tiger's mouth is open, and sink. Rise. Next part, we're going to sink and we're going to bend our elbows and the hands are going to be flat. Okay, so I'll turn it sideways so you can see. So from here I rise and sink. Just drop your elbows a little bit and the hands with your fingers pointing down, now the palms face the ground. Okay, so from here, if you watch me, I rise and sink. So let's try again from the beginning. Take a breath and sink. Rise and sink. Hands float up and sink. Relax the elbows. From here, we're going to rise. We're going to draw the hands in. Okay, so again from here, you watch, I come up. I sink, elbows are bent, palms facing the ground. Once again, this is about shoulder height. And then we rise, draw the hands in. So they're right in front, palms facing out. Okay, so from the beginning again. Take a breath and sink. Rise, arms float up. Relax your arms. And sink. Elbow slightly bent. Rise, draw the hands in. And then finally we're going to turn our hands so the fingers point towards each other. Sink. We end up with the palms facing behind us. Okay, so from here, rise, sink. I'm doing this a little bit fast just to show you rise and sink. Okay, but I think you can see that there's a rhythm to this. Once again, it's just up and down and up and down. If we do this slowly, you'll find, and you start observing your breath, you'll find oftentimes that your breathing will match your rising and sinking. When we do this, once again, we don't force it. It may not match all the time, but you'll notice that as you go along. Maybe not so much now, but later. But this is the part that really helps your body quite a bit, and it makes the difference between learning Tai Chi as something that's very meditative and rejuvenating as opposed to Tai Chi that's just another calisthenic. By the way, as I said, a lot of people learn the shorter forms of Tai Chi There was a famous instructor named Chen Man-ching who came to the United States and taught in the early 1960s. I think he died in about 1972. But he taught a short form, which was quite popular. And that form takes somewhere between like 4 or 6 minutes to go through. So while it's good at a calisthenic and like it's maybe a good exercise to do that, you don't spend a lot of time on the meditative end of it. What I like about this form is that it goes long. It's a long form. If we learn all 3 sections, and I hope one day maybe you'll be inspired to do that, it takes about 35 minutes, give or take a few minutes, to learn all 3, or practice all 3 sections. So you are doing these movements. A lot of them have repetitions, but you're doing it for a long time. It becomes very graceful to watch and enjoyable to practice because you kind of get in this state of just, you're just moving, everything's flowing, and you feel good. So it's almost like being in water. It's because you just learn how to relax. And instead of feeling like weighted down by the ground, like, oh, I feel heavy today, it's like, no, I feel light, I feel good. That's the kind of feeling we want to generate from practicing Tai Chi. Okay, so let's try again. I want to give you a little bit of a break. So I know sometimes when we haven't done this initially, your knees can get a little tired. So start from the beginning again. We stand. Take a breath. Hands float out just a little bit and then sink palms face down. And then palms face towards the side of your legs. Then rise. Palms come up, they turn inward, circle inward, and sink. Palms face behind. Rise, arms float up. And sink. Rise, draw your hands in. And sink. Good. So we're going to end up doing this probably 1,000 times in the next 2 months, if not more, because we'll be doing that over and over again. Every time we practice, we'll be doing that, and we'll practice quite a few times in every class, so you'll get to know that very good. Okay, but once again, you need to practice. Okay, the next part is going to be a little bit of a turn. And generally, I use north as the direction we're facing. To Westerners, we tend to look at north as, that's the direction we want to go to. In China, south is the important direction. So it really doesn't matter what direction you are facing, but I'm going to use north just so we know, or left or right, just so we know which way we're facing. I'll try to use both of them so it's not too confusing. But we're going to turn a little bit to our left. So the next part, if you just watch me, from the last part we're going to rise and turn to the left and sink. Hands come out maybe about 45 degrees. Okay, we're not coming way over here. Our feet are fixed, so it's not comfortable to do that. So rise, turn, and sink. I'll turn this way. I rise, turn, weight goes onto my left leg. Okay? So let's give that a try. I'll start from the beginning. Take a breath and sink. Draw the hands in, and then turn them towards each other. They don't touch, but they face each other. Palms are now behind. Then we're going to rise, and we're going to turn to our left. And if you're watching me, I would be doing it probably the opposite of what you're doing. But if I do it the way you're doing, it's probably going to confuse you. That's called mirror image. So I'm going to just stay with going this way. So from here, once again, rise, sink. Weight goes onto the left leg. Now, there's a principle in Tai Chi which is called double weightedness, and we don't want that. We don't want to have weight evenly on both legs. If you do, if you put both 50-50, you can't pick up your feet. You have to shift weight on one side to pick up the other side, right? When we walk, we're always doing it on one side to the other. We don't think about it at all. But if you stand there and you put concentrate, you have to have weight on one side or the other. So in Tai Chi, double weightedness is something we don't do. We want to learn how to keep our weight shifting from side to side. And this is where we start really developing balance, side to side shift. So from here, rise and sink a little bit. Okay, because we've weights on one leg and we freeze up the next leg, other leg. So what we're going to do now is we're going to turn the opposite direction. And I'm going to demonstrate this, and then I will turn around so my back is towards you. You won't be able to see my hands very well, but you'll be able to follow that line of my movement. So let me show you first. So from the last part with our hands bent, I'm going to turn to the left. And then I'm going to turn to the right. When I do this, my weight's on the left, I'm going to turn the right foot on the heel till it faces the east. Okay, or to your right. Okay, my right hand's going to come up, like so. My left hand is going to turn upward, but stay low in the body. The next move is called hold the ball. So from here, I rise, I turn, my weight's on the left, and then I'm going to shift my weight onto the right foot and hold the ball. Okay, this will be our final position. So one hand, top hand over the left hand. And it's not too high. This is about shoulder height. So it's not up here. It's not huge. It's like holding a little ball. Sorry. So from sideways, so you can see me. I turn, and then I shift my weight onto the right leg. Okay? And we're going to be looking towards our north when we do this. You might want to watch your hands so finish it. Make sure you have the right position. So let's give this a try. I'll face you initially, and then I will turn around, and then you can follow. So let's start with our legs bent. Rise. Turn to the left. Sink. And then turn to the right. Right foot, turn on the heel. Left foot stays low. Right hands, palm down, and shift your weight over. Hold the ball. Okay, I'm going to turn around. And I'll try speaking up a little bit so you can hear me. Legs are bent. Rise. Turn to the left. Sink. Rise on the left. Turn the right foot. Hand comes across. And hold the ball. Once again, our direction we're looking at is going to be towards the north or in front of us from where we started. Relax our shoulders. We don't want to have our shoulders up tight. You'll see this a lot. This is a thing I always see about pictures of people doing Tai Chi for magazine articles or on the internet or things like that. Is people are good models, but they don't necessarily know Tai Chi. So they'll have them do hold the ball and they're like this. They're very stiff. Something like this. And we don't want to be stiff. We want to be relaxed. So we relax our elbows. So from here, I turn, we go this way. I turn, my elbows relaxed, arms relaxed, shoulders relaxed. We don't want to have stiff. So practicing Tai Chi, we get rid of our stiffness by being aware of our body too, so we become very conscious of it. So we want to get that tension out. Just figure out, yeah, it feels better that way. Okay, let's try again. I'm going to face this way. So bend our legs, rise, sink on the left. Rise on the left leg. Right hand comes up, left hand stays low, and then turn the right foot, and then shift your weight slowly onto the right leg. Hold the ball. Okay, so watch me again, or you can follow too. I'm going to turn to the left, and then hold the ball. So once again, the bottom hand just turns over. Very simple. The top hand, the right hand, just comes up. So put that together. One arm comes up, one hand stays low. Sink. Hold the ball. Okay, let's try from the very beginning. Take a breath and sink. Rise. Turn the wrists in and sink. Palms now face behind. Rise, arms float up. Relax your shoulders and then sink. Palms now face towards the ground. Rise, draw the hands in. And then finally turn them inward and sink. Palms now face behind. Rise and sink on the left leg. Then rise, weights on the left foot. We're going to turn the right foot on the heel. And then shift our weight onto the right leg and hold the ball. Okay, let's try one more time from the hold the ball part. So feet are shoulders apart, palms face behind. Rise, turn to the left. Sink on the left leg. Rise. And hold the ball. Okay, so I would like to stop right there for now. What I'd like you to do is, if there's a chat function there, if you have questions, maybe you can type out your questions real quick, and I'll take a look and try to answer some of these questions. But once we end the class, too, once again, I'm recording this class, after it's been processed and I have a link for it, I'll send it to you. But in the meantime, when this class is over, I will also send you a shorter version, like a 5-minute version of this lesson that you can follow. Okay, I made this up a while ago in preparation for this class. So you have that to watch, or the whole class. If you miss a class, once again, there will be a link to it so you can watch the whole class anytime you want. Okay, so if you want to type some stuff in there, I'll take a look. If you don't have any questions, that's okay too. That's not a problem. So the question is if when we do the hold the ball, how much weight is on the right leg? All your weight is on the right leg at that point, because we're going to be taking a step in the next movement. So from here, I sink, and then transfer all my weight here, because the next movement I'm going to take a step forward, which we'll learn next class. So once again, from here, sink, rise, transfer your weight. My foot's down, but it's empty, it's full, empty. One person has described this idea of full and empty as like, which I thought was a nice idea, taking a pitcher of water, filling another empty pitcher. So it's like you've got the water on this side and you're pouring it into this side, transferring your weight over, filling this one up. This is now empty and we can step. That's a good question. Okay, well, then we still got a few minutes left. I don't see any other questions right now, but that's okay. Let's practice a few more times, okay? So from the very beginning, take a breath and sink. Hands float up and sink. Palms face behind. Rise. Hands come up. And sink. Rise, draw the hands in. And sink. Palms face behind. Then rise. We're going to turn to the left and sink. Rise, weight on the left. That allows us to turn the right foot and then sink on the right leg. Okay, once again, hold the ball. So the first part is called beginning Tai Chi, and then we go into hold the ball. Let's see if there's another question. Let's try again. Take a breath and sink. Rise, turn to the left, sink on the left leg. Rise on the left leg. That frees up your right foot. You can turn it on the heel, turn your toes, sink. Remember to relax your shoulder, relax your arms. We do not want to have our arms out like this. We want to have them relaxed. Okay? One hand over the other. So from here, this hand comes straight down. Okay, we don't want to come in this way. Try to be right above, sink. Okay, so imagine you have a ball there. Okay, one last time for tonight. Let's take a breath and sink. Okay, good. So I recommend, unless there's any other questions, I'm going to recommend that, oh, there's a question, so let me look. Okay, the question is, should the left foot face forward, face straight forward at the end? So I shift my weight on the left, I go to the right, and I really haven't picked up my left foot, so yes, it's still facing forward. We are going to take a step at that moment, but no, I did not. When I'm here, I did not change the position of my left foot. My left foot waits there. And then I rise, my weight's on the left foot. I don't change the position of it, but I do change the position of the right foot out towards the east. Okay, so turn here and then sink. And when you're here, your foot's, once again, we're going to be taking this step so your foot will come up, but we didn't change the position of it. There, weight's going to be, once we transfer the weight here, it stays there, we don't move that. Good, so if you have other questions, you can always email me, or next time we can do that. Next class is going to be Friday, 6 o'clock. I'll try to have this set up so you can start logging in about a quarter till. But please try to get logged in at 6 so that we can get started with this. There's a lot to learn with Tai Chi. It's simple, but we go over it a lot of times. Once again, if you miss a class, we'll be having other videos to catch up, or the cloud version of this one that I've recorded. And I want to thank you for coming to class. It's interesting teaching this because in a regular class, of course, I can see what everybody's doing, and here I don't. So I'm just using my imagination. And hopefully it's working out for you. So have a good evening. I'm going to sign everybody off.